Greetings, everyone. I'm Shantari Skinner from the Queen's University of Charlotte, and I will be giving you an article summary on connecting nonprofit and communication scholarship, a review of key issues, and a meta-theoretical framework for future research by Matthew Koshman, Matthew Isbell, and Matthew Sanders. So just to give you an overview of what the article talks about based on keywords that the authors provide from the start, let's begin with the nonprofit sector pertaining to a constitutive view of communication. This sort of view is necessary in nonprofit studies because it broadens the extent to which communication in nonprofit studies can be explored through an interdisciplinary lens. For this reason, the focus of organizational communication should be concerned with social and sociocultural findings, among others, to review how they function as unique organizations driven by communication dynamics. They preface this with a history lesson that links functionalism and contemporary studies. The authors expand upon studies from 50 nonprofit journals since the year 2000. They left us with analyses on channels and technologies used for communication in nonprofit organizations, delving into social media projects as well as donor relationships, among others. American universities contributed to early studies of communication nonprofit scholarship. They believe that 20th century theory continues to dominate the field of study. Indeed, studying human interaction has a complicated history that scholars continue to borrow ideas from previous work to discover new information. Claude Shannon, a communication scholar, provided a quantitative framework to explain human interaction. Functionalism developed from this, but this frame limits more in-depth inquiry, which narrows its uses. So there has been an ongoing dissatisfaction with functionalism. The Academy shifted away from functionalism even though it recognizes that key components of it can be combined with contemporary theories. So some scholars wanted to explore paths beyond the limits of Claude Shannon's useful framework. The primary critique of a functionalist approach to communication is that it fails to account for the complexities of human interaction that are essential to most communicative events, according to the authors. Instead, they seek to engage with social interactions that shape the culture of nonprofit organizations. They say that our goal is to demonstrate the breadth and depth of communication research and reveal how communication researchers have approached subjects and questions that are of interest to the nonprofit scholarly community. The authors point out that other elements are important to note when studying the constitutive nature of communication in the nonprofit world. For example, the influence of linguistics, interpersonal communication, intercultural communication, etc., must be considered in order to lift some of the limitations that functionalism presents. So let's look at 7 themes for communication research in and of the nonprofit sector. You have membership, which refers to identity, employment, emotional labor, etc. Structure, which is ways of leading and management models. Legitimacy, which incorporates research on how nonprofit communication achieves goals, the role of mission statements, and maintaining a recognized organizational identity, creating reputation and status. Differentiation, which is just the different arrangements of different nonprofits. Stakeholder relationships, where shared histories among organizations come into play as clients are identified and served. Communication strategies, which nonprofits use with clients, stakeholder channels, issue advertisements. And then you have linkages, which explain the links between alliances, networks, and collaborations. These are all key areas of communication that have been researched and used to establish the groundwork that Koshman, Isbell, and Sanders use as a reference. Understanding the fact that communication makes it all happen and determines the nature of an organization is vital. According to the authors, we constitute, not just express our social realities in our interactions with others. Communication is a dynamic, interactive process that involves constant negotiation over interpretation and meaning, not just the transmission of information. Therefore, we must assess all levels of communication and consider the real contributions that they make to the whole. So let's rethink like the author suggested by laying out their thinking. Communication should be used as a mode of explanation in nonprofit study. Using this to explain interactions in particular situations can lead to more intimate research about the inner workings of a nonprofit. Economic theorizing is important, but there is more to it. For example, the authors reference a communication scholar. In his study of homelessness in Denver, Colorado, Tompkins argues that homelessness is not only an economic problem, but also a communicative problem stemming from a breakdown of communication networks that supply social capital. The functions of a nonprofit should not be overlooked in these studies because they impact all aspects of the organization. A second and related implication of a constitutive approach to communication involves challenging the taken for granted or natural character of nonprofit concepts and phenomena. We often take for granted terms like volunteer, nonprofit, mission, faith-based, and sector. These natural characters help us to understand how specific organizations work as their management differs, as some are more based in economics and others mainly focus on how decisions affect their relationship with clients. The interactions that occur in these environments should be prioritized as they play a role in the overall dynamic of the organization. Rethinking organizations as communication. So the authors believe that what makes an organization truly an organization are specific processes, practices, and procedures that set them apart from other collections of people. An organization is basically an ongoing assemblage of interactions, decisions, interpretations, symbols, negotiations, agreements, contracts, relationships, and so forth. The true character of the organization is what remains most important because it can reveal information that can help to extend the breadth of studies that focus on these elements. Experiences and real motives play a role in how an organization functions. Communications make it all happen, but how do commitments and goals make a difference in the culture of it? The authors recognize that these new ways of theorizing nonprofits should not stand alone as previous studies complement the work that continues today. So, as for the conclusion, the authors wanted this to be a review of issues related to nonprofit communication scholarship in order to encourage more research. They believe that researchers will focus on frameworks based on social interaction among volunteers and members. The work of those in these organizations can be analyzed with these tools that can broaden the field of study. They do not look to replace any methods used before because quantitative forms can be used in conjunction. The challenge lies in synthesizing information across disciplines and learning new concepts to understand theorizing for interdisciplinary purposes. A better understanding of the nonprofit sector will emerge as a result of using some of these meta-theoretical frameworks. And here is the work cited.